think certainly with water, I think there's certainly not a clear facing of reality yet. You know, and I think there's a tendency to, anytime there's a big challenge, to just put our heads in the sand with it. And so I think there's not a recognition yet that it's a major issue that we need to deal with. We have episodic periods of drought, for example, where I think people understand that they need to conserve and there's a motivation to conserve. And then we sort of go back to business as usual. But what's increasingly clear, I think, certainly from what the scientists are finding, and we seem to have evidence of this almost every year, is that as climate changes, as we're beginning to see it doing now, we're going to be entering sort of a new normal with water. It looks very clear, for example, that in the southwestern part of the United States, we're going to be entering a long-term drier period than we've been accustomed to for the last century or more. And so all of the dams and diversions of water that are feeding in the Southwest, say just from the Colorado River, supplying 1 million acres of irrigated land, tens of millions of people who live in the Southwest, well, our way of life may not be able to be sustained in the same way that it is now if those water supplies diminish, as most of the climate models say they will. And so it's really important that we anticipate this change so that we're not caught off guard about it. We've just gone through a very severe drought in the Southwest. Lake Mead has gone from 96% capacity down to, when I was there last summer, 43% capacity. And the scientists say we could be looking at a dry Lake Mead within a decade. Well, we better plan about that and think about it, and how we can begin to organize ourselves proactively to deal with that situation. Similarly, in the Southeast, we've seen periods of drought that have really challenged the water systems there, and we have increasing, as we do in the Colorado, increasing competition for water between the states within the Southeast, and they haven't yet been able to agree on how to share the water among themselves, much less with the mussels and the fish and everything else that relies on that water too. So again, I think it's really important that we begin to get real about the issue so that we can be proactive and not be caught in a reactive mode that gives us very little choice. And again, the really important thing to realize is there are options out of this. Water is currently managed in a way that's not terribly efficient or productive, which means that there's so much we could do with the water that we have to meet our needs in a more efficient, productive way. We can grow crops using irrigation systems that are more efficient. We can time when we irrigate to when the crops really need the water. We can grow crops in climates that are more conducive to the growing of those crops that requires less water. We can do so much around our homes with regard to how we use water indoors and outdoors. So it would be very easy to see how we could save 25% of our water use in most situations if we put our mind to that and planned for that and began to roll out those kinds of solutions. And I think the other important thing is that each of us has what we call a water footprint. That everything that we consume every day has water embedded in it. So I still often get the question, well, I turn off the tap when I brush my teeth. What else can I do? Which tells me that there's an interest in doing something, but also a lack of information about what people can really do that's going to make a difference. So I think this concept of embedded water, of hidden water, that water's in everything we use every day. And to the extent we use less paper or buy fewer clothes or recycle those things when we do buy them and use them, we're reducing our water footprint. To the extent we move our diets a bit down the food chain and consume, for example, less red meat, for example, which is very, very water intensive in our diet. To the extent we move ourselves down a bit on that food chain, we again shrink our water footprint, which means that we're leaving more water for other people, for other species, and again, beginning to share this finite supply. So there's so much we can do at the individual level, the community level, the state and regional level, again, if we get real about the issue and get proactive about the solutions toward it.